Central banks have been raising their interest rates over the past few months. We're going to have a look at whether it's better to hold your money in the bank as cash or to indeed buy more gold. Now, for many years, the interest rates were particularly low, the last 10 years at least, and therefore saving cash in the bank was not very attractive. Now, you can buy a Gold Britannia like this, or a similar coin in your country, for recently in the UK at least, a little bit over spot, very low premiums indeed. So I picked this one up recently at just over the £1,500 mark, which is basically spot plus post, and there's nothing wrong with it, very nice coin, quite well known around the world. So people like them, it's got the security features that people enjoy, and also feel more secure in buying. So anyway, we're going to consider whether it is better to continue to buy gold or indeed to stack more cash as cash in the bank. So first of all, the gold price in pounds, it was 1 year ago 14.75, and today we are just over the 1500. If you are in the US, however, then the gold price has done a little bit better and you are up about 10%. So next up, this is the interest chart for the Bank of England, and on the next page we have the Federal Reserve. So as you can see, both are sitting in the mid fives, just below the 6%, after years of being relatively low. Both of these charts are on tradingeconomics.com if you want to have a look there and find out a bit more. Oh, and also the gold chart I used is on Bullion by Post. So savings haven't necessarily been that attractive to people over the past decade at least. Why would you put your money in the bank where it's gaining like 1% or less in interest? And also if you're in Europe, you would have perhaps experienced negative interest rates. So it actually costs you money to leave your money in the bank, and you've also got inflation, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So first of all, in the UK at the moment, you could put your money into an easy access savings account, which means you can withdraw the money without being penalised, and you can get your nice easy 5%. There are some current accounts which are offering a little bit more for smaller amounts, like up to a couple of thousand, but if you want to put in bigger amounts, into the six figures or tens of thousands, then you should easily be able to get the 5 to 6%. Now, if you are looking to lock away the money for a little bit longer, then sixes and above are just about sort of creeping in there. Obviously, bullion itself doesn't actually return an interest. You are relying on the gold price to go up over time. So from where we are right now, you're obviously wanting the gold price to increase more than that. Otherwise, you would have been better off holding the money there in the bank. Now, there is a few little caveats there. So if you're fixing your money for a longer period of time, then there's probably going to be a few more stipulations, but you might get a better rate. So if it's definitely money you don't need to touch, then that is fine. Obviously, if you have gold bullion, you could obviously liquidate at any time. You are risking losing your premium in the short term, and obviously any short-term sort of fluctuations in the price. So in general, I'd expect to put my gold away for a long time if needed. We're talking like years, tens of years, and I'm happy with that if that's, that's what's required. The other option you have in the UK is the premium bonds, which are paying out an annual prize fund approximately of 4.65%. Now, the thing with these, they're like bonds, like you would have, bills or notes in the US. But what it is, it's a lottery. So you can put up to £50,000 in, and each month there is a prize draw. So instead of paying out the interest to everybody, a few percent every month, what they do is they pool all the interest together that they are earning and split it into a prize fund. So you could, in theory, win up to £1 million. Now, I don't know anyone who has won the million. I do know a few people who've won in the £5,000, £10,000 range, and you get smaller prizes of £25, £150, £200 and so on. So I do know a few people who've won smaller amounts, but not any of the larger amounts. So if you're watching and you have, then please share. That would be interesting. The other thing with interest in the UK, you have an allowance, so you can earn an amount of interest before you pay tax on it. But after that, you are paying tax, and you obviously pay at your income tax rate and relevant band. So if you're a high rate taxpayer, perhaps saving in the bank is not going to be that attractive. Obviously, you want to consider your different position. If you need to, obviously speak to your accountant and make your own decision ultimately. But these are some of the options. So for me, I'm just considering like your basic accounts, basic savings accounts. So nice and simple, where you can just get your money out. It's as simple as opening an account and so on. So just to give you some examples, let's jump onto the calculator. So the Britannia I bought recently, £1,500 with delivery. If you are to times that by 5%, you will get a total of £1,575. So let's say you put the money, instead of I bought this Britannia, instead of doing that, I put it into a savings account for 5%. In 1 year's time, I would have gained my £75 in interest on top of my 1,500. So in theory, if my gold Britannia is now worth 1575 or more next year, I've in theory beaten what I could have had. So the next possibility, you might be wanting to lock your money away for a little bit longer. So let's say, for example, you want to put your money away for the 2 years. You can get a 6% return at the moment. That would therefore be £90 in interest in the first year. So your Britannia needs to be worth £1,590 in 1 year's time to have beaten the return in the bank. Now, then you've got the second year, so you're going to get interest on your original money and the interest. So now you're going to end up with a price of around £1,685. So that means that your £1,500 has gone up by around about £185 over those 2 years. Now, remember there is taxes to consider, and they're going to vary depending on the account you've got and things like that. So I'm curious, is there an amount of interest that you would stop buying gold at, or do you treat gold just as something different? Are you investing into a savings account as well? You know, is that something you're doing anyway? And maybe gold is something different. Maybe you're just a collector of gold and you're not really bothered about the financial side so much. You're more looking for a hobby of it and something that will at least retain most of its value, you know, compared to buying, I don't know, expensive equipment for other hobbies. Or is there simply just no rate that you are interested in? Are you trying to get into gold and out of the sort of fiat money system? Is that your thing? So I'm curious, let me know in the comments. So one thing I haven't talked about is the inflation and how that affects it. So let's say you're locking your money up for a period of time. If your inflation rate is going to be higher than your interest rate, you're effectively negative. So if you can get 5% on your savings, but the cost of everything is going up by 10%, then you're actually negative 5%. So realistically, you need to be getting a better return than the inflation rate just to break even. And then obviously you're still getting the taxes and things as well. So you really need to be earning quite a lot more return than the inflation rate just to even break even, just to tread water. Maybe there's no amount of interest that would, you know, convince you to go into cash in the bank. Maybe it's just that's why you're into gold, because you don't want the cash in the bank in the first place. So let's chat in the comments and we'll speak soon.